Our next presenter is from the University of Gurugram, Haryana, India, and her name is Meenakshi Gujral, and her background reads like this. She is a corporate trainer, consultant, and subject matter expert to companies fostering business development, sales, and marketing strategies. With a captivating prowess as a public speaker, she has seamlessly graced both national and international platforms, captivating audiences with her dynamic insights. She holds over 18 years of extensive experience in professional research and academics across multiple global universities, including India, South Africa, and Singapore. Her focal areas are marketing and consumer behavior, rural marketing, technology, innovation, and sustainability, as well as business communication. Meenakshi holds a master's degree in resource management and extension from Delhi University in India, as well as a higher postgraduate diploma from Michigan State University in the USA. She completed her PhD in business model innovation and green sustainability at the University of the Witwatersrand in South Africa. Thank you, Meenakshi. We are ready for you.
Thank you so much. I hope I am audible.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this introduction. It's very kind of you, and my special regards to the organizing committee of the Shwane University of Technology, and my special thanks to Professor Makita from UNISA. I think she's the most dynamic professor I have ever met, particularly while living in South Africa and otherwise. And I think it's her kindness and it's her generosity that we could continue to create a very long lasting, sustainable relationship. So I basically work presently for the University of KR Mangalam. And my today's presentation is basically focused on the marketing education and how the higher education institutions in India, particularly KR Mangalam University, what exactly are their perspectives? How are we bringing some kind of a change, particularly in light of new technological developments and innovations around? So I'll quickly share my slides. KR Mangalam University has a legacy. I would be just very short because I know there's a time constraint and there are many other international speakers lined up for this particular seminar and collaboration. We have a long legacy, and we started, more as schools first into the school education, and we still continue to do that. However, the university came into existence in 2010, and we celebrated last year over a decade of celebration that we had it last year. So we're also expanding more into the off campuses in other parts of the India as well. So this is how our campus looks like. And we are accredited and recognized, and we fall under the University Grants Commission in India. There are many awards that KR Mangalam has bagged up, being the #1 in the Delhi NCR, particularly in Haryana, in North India. And we are the most preferred university, where we have almost more than 6 lakh registrations on UG and PG. And currently, we almost hold close to 8,000 students. These are just a snapshot of our prime industry partners. I would make it a point in my presentation, that is what I would like to highlight, that how do we actually closely work with these industry partners, particularly when we transect the marketing courses. So these are the ones who actually run through all the 11 schools that fall under the KR Mangalam University and its legacy. So this is going to be the flow of my presentation for today, with the brief introduction that I already started. And I'll focus first on the marketing curriculum and how did we incorporate the sustainable development goals at every level. How the new education policy, which has been implemented by the government, and our responsibilities as a university is to integrate the new education policy and its parameters in every course and curriculum that we do. I would like to give that overview because that is something very similar that I also observed while teaching and while studying in South Africa. I'll also focus at how do we create a multidisciplinary environment within our curriculums, and how do we go about industry collaborations program wise, what exactly they do, how do they go, and industry collaborators come and work with us at regular basis. We also talk about the research focus that we have currently, but the focus is also, the research focus is basically on the new age technologies, digitization of the curriculum. So that is what the faculty is also focused from the last couple of years. I'll also talk about how does the outreach activities and extension give us a little more edge on the multidisciplinary angle of our syllabus and curriculum, and how do we are striving to build up a kind of an institutional culture where we are heading towards becoming more of a digital university rather than just be purely on classroom teaching. We'll also talk about how did we created a framework which is more of a teamwork framework, and we look forward at what kind of a next generation professionals that we are expecting to coming out of the university. I'll talk quickly about the emerging trends, and I'll particularly focus on how do we go about incorporating artificial intelligence and the other new age technologies into our marketing curriculum, and what is the way forward that we see. So, in my understanding, the change or any new technology or any kind of new practices or best practices that come from industry, that needs to be, impact right from the university or at a school level to the programs, and then going down to the marketing courses. And that's how we visualize this at our university. We believe in more of the outcome-based curriculum and outcome-based education rather than giving, pre-goals or, kind of objectives, to the student. So we believe in the outcome-based education rather than actually believing in the other way. And that's what we try to incorporate right from the university, which has 11 schools in place. And I belong to the School of Management and Commerce as an associate professor, and also head a vertical which is on international relations for the university as a director. So school level planning is important. So as the at a programs, when the programs are being planned by each school, to look at their curriculum designs, what kind of program level planning is there, how do we go about relating the outcome-based education with the program outcomes and the program specific outcomes. And also vis-a-vis then under each program, how are these marketing courses are being aligned. So each course, what exactly is their course outcome? Can we relate those course outcomes to the program outcomes and to the program specific outcomes? And that is what is also in hand provided to the students in form of a course handouts. We, along with a detailed learning plan, that's what we always used to do even at WITS also, that while I was teaching some courses on technology and innovation and on integrated marketing communication, in my handouts, it will be a detailed learning plan, which would define what exactly is the outcome that I'm expecting from the student. And it will also give a detailed assessment strategy, which will have a complete era of quiz or maybe of any kind of an industry project or any kind of seminars or any kind of that the student is expected to deliver. And then we would build up a kind of a course outcome attainment metrics. Well, that's a little longer. Maybe we require a separate lecture on that, but I'll not get into that much of in-depth detail. But on a prima phase, I would like to, share that what exactly we do from the university level to the program level, and how do we go about integrating AI and digitization in the present curriculum, particularly in the marketing courses. So we all understand SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and it's also one of the, the interest of the government as well as the Department of Education in India. And they're very high on this, where they say that they would like to incorporate the Sustainable Development Goals in the education system in the universities. So when we talk about marketing education, the curriculum is designed in such a way, sitting across with the academia as well as the advisory boards, which consist of professors from the universities within India, outside, as well as industry experts who come together on regular basis, once in 6 months, and they would review the curriculum and the courses, and they ensure that it is well aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. Are we, through the curriculum, reaching out to, are we addressing quality education? Are we addressing, the global partnership? Are we reducing some kind of inequalities? Are we looking at the industry interventions and innovations as per se? So the new education policy was launched in 2020, and higher education plays an extremely important role in promoting this, both at human as well as for a societal well-being. The new education policy is also already implemented in the last 4 years in the school's curriculum. And we picked up the reins from the school curriculum to the higher education when the child comes out of the 12th grade and is absorbed in the first year of the undergraduates. So the new education policy, it states very clearly what kind of an education approach has to be there at an undergraduate and how do you go about integrating this, and making it more multidisciplinary, and it's more focused on the STEM education, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we all are very well versed in South Africa about that. So we have a common, we are like the DOE in South Africa. Similarly, we are regulated by something called as University Grants Commission here, and all the private and government universities fall under that. And UGC has, formulated a very student-centric curriculum, and that's why we say that it is an outcome-based curriculum and outcome-based education that we believe in, and it's very student-centric, where they have created a framework for undergraduate as well as for the postgraduate, which I'll share also in my next few slides. So the main aim is to felicitate the students to pursue career path and choose a subject or a field of an interest, and also while they are undergoing this undergraduate studies right from the first, second, and the third year or the following fourth year, there has to be some kind of a skills that need to be imparted, whether they are of new age technologies or otherwise. So new education policy, it provides a lot of flexibility in terms of choices of courses. I mean, a student can choose at various levels that when they would like to exit. So it doesn't, unlike the old systems, what we were seeing in India and the system that I've been brought up, this is something which gives lot flexibility and a choice of freedom to the student as such, because it is student centric. It also gives you an angle to give you creatively combine different subjects and disciplines. And also it helps to create a curriculum for the faculty as well to create, which is much more need based and caters to that particular students rather than making it something which is very generic. And certainly it is not that hard now to separate the different areas of learning. So somebody who's taken up finance can maybe take up forensic science in a combination, or maybe as a value add course on the effective communication, which is required at a business, whenever they plan to go. So this is how usually the NAP allows you. So there are various exit levels that are given, and the credit needs to be completed to exit out at a different level and be awarded with a particular certificate or a diploma, or maybe kind of graduate degree, or a graduate degree with research, or maybe a graduate degree with honors. That's what we call it as. So it gives you a flexibility, and this is just a broad overview. I just wanted to give a snapshot of the same. So NEP provides basically a roadmap on, it makes it more multidisciplinary kind of an education, and it creates more of universities which are research oriented. It provides a lot of freedom to the student in terms of becoming a global citizen, and also give them to be a part of a student exchange programs where they also get credit benefits here, in internal, even in internal assessment they get credit benefits while they're doing the course with us. So for example, my students in September would be traveling for a student exchange and a short immersion to Middlesex University London in their Dubai campus on the September 24th, and they would be getting some credit benefits for the semester that they're doing it here. Similarly, in October, we have another one going to the Edward Covid University in Australia, in Perth again. I heard there was another professor from Perth, from the University of Western Australia. That's close by. So they would be going there in the month of October, and they would be, completing a subject and a course for which they will be given a credit benefits here internally. So the curriculum, the NAP forces us basically to make a curriculum which is more holistic in nature, which is more multidisciplinary, which is more credit-based kind of a learning, and also integrates into the online learning. I will also talk about how are we moving towards also integration of online learning to digitization of these curriculums. So that's a little snapshot. So at universities, the content, processes, outcomes matters, and that is what they try to integrate with the Sustainable Development Goals, which caters to environmental and social economic aspects. And this there we have the new education policy, which helps to integrate both these things in a very balanced way. So there are many ways where we have been doing actually and practicing to incorporate the SDGs into the higher education as per the NEP goals as well. We have adopted more interdisciplinary where we revamp the curriculum on a very regular basis. I already mentioned there is an advisory board which sits every 6 months and review the curriculum and look at the industry requirements and try to incorporate the same. The research focus is also on skill based, on skill learning. That is what we have been trying to achieve. We are into outreach activities and events, both intra and intra. I'll give you a little, walk through how they look like. We have adopted some villages here wherein we encourage students to go and based on the courses that they have taken up to do certain interventions in those villages. We also try to create an institutional culture wherein we have more self-reliant and self-sustainable strategies. I'll talk about that as well, and of course, the next generation professionals. So in an interdisciplinary approach, as I already said and mentioned that we review curricula, is one thing that I want to highlight here is besides mapping the courses, mapping the courses with the course outcome and the program outcome and the learning outcome and creating into the form of a learning outcome curriculum framework, which I'll maybe share with you. This is how the learning outcome framework looks like, wherein you try to map as per the accreditation council requirement, mapping it up every course, mapping it up, with the sustainable development goals, and again with the new education policy, and of course with the what kind of a pedagogy that you are passing it to the students in terms of employment. So is it enhancing any of its employability criteria or not? That is also something which is very critical when we design those courses. And whether it is catering to the fourth industrial revolution, again, that's something which is extremely important for us. So each course is mapped up in this fashion. Each course wherein we create a learning outcome curriculum framework. To understand this in detail, certainly we require more time. But if anybody is interested, I would love to pass on, some kind of, documents which can help you understand. And so besides this, there is also, we introduce value added courses, which is something not only meant for marketing students or maybe for the students who are studying finance or studying human resources or studying IT in our business school, but also something which is caters to the other 11 schools. So we have forensic science students who also do back courses. We have engineering students also who do back courses. Now, these value-added courses are over and above their, their basic qualifications that they're taking. So, and they're more focused on the skill development. So there they have, digital strategy and innovation subjects like that, or a cyber security, or engine marketing, or maybe something like a soft skill development that is required. So based on their, their mentorship with their faculty and their mentors, they're free to choose at least one value-add course per semester. So I'm going to talk about them in more detail if time allows. So this is the another framework where how we implement the SGDs, and we check out that whether my unit one is well connected, what kind of a framework it is providing me, what kind of a NAC criteria it is dealing with, which SGD goal that I'm making a difference, and then with what new the new education policies, where am I mapping it with what criterias am I mapping with the fourth, the IR revolution that I'm seeing it across. So that is what we bring in a change in our curriculums, and this is a framework that every faculty makes it for themselves. This is I'll just show you an example. Let's say for my course, which is on consumer behavior, which I'm translating to the masters of the commerce students in the fourth semester. You see that I provided some course headers here, unit wise. Unit one, let's say, for example, focuses on the significance and underlying principles of consumer behavior. Now, with what employability, or maybe with the LOCF framework where it touch upon, how I'm going to reach out to this. So maybe solving case studies would help me, and it will also help to build up an analytical reasoning and also give some kind of a disciplinary knowledge to the students. With, let's say, for example, with SGD, it is going to give them a little enhancement on skills for decent work. So it touch bases on the Sustainable Development Goal 4.4 for me, the unit one. And I would also map with what kind of an interventions I'm going to take it up. Let's say how I'm going to enhance that. So through case competitions, I'm going to definitely enhance that. And what in the industry 4.0 requirement this student will fulfill, possibly to enhance their soft skills. So similarly, it is done, that kind of a mapping is done for unit 2, unit 3, or unit 4. If a course has more units, and obviously more units are incorporated. Then assessment, which is unit wise, what activities, what assignments, what projects that you are taking it up, that goes as an extra with this particular framework. So one of the very important thing, and something that probably it might interest you as well, I would like to share, is the kind of industry collaborations that we have in terms of making the students prepare. So our each course is ideally is being designed in such a way that some of the content is transacted through these industry partners. So let's say, for example, the MBA logistics and supply chain management, it is with an academic support of Safe Express. Now, Safe Express is one of the best logistic company and supply chain management company in India, and it is very customer centric organization. So the industry experts from them would take probably one course in a semester out of the 6 or 7 courses pool. So that they would take it more in a very practical way through case studies, through their data that they have at Safe Express, and also sharing their own experiences. Now, if you see between the courses, the management and commerce courses that we offer, if you see, let's take an example of Ematicus Learning. We transact a course on MBA Digital Marketing with Ematicus. Now, Ematicus, we all know, is a very top-notch training company in finance, in analytics, and technology. So these are they are the ones who basically take at least one course for us. However, their assessment, everything is also done by them. But teaching faculty would be attached to this industry expert who can help and who can also assist when they are getting into some kind of an assessment, because we want, after all, an academic assessment. We completely don't want a pure industry assessment in that. So it has to be something which is an amalgamation of both. If you look at the BBA courses, let's say the course which is transacted through the academic support of NCE, which is the National Stock Exchange of India. So they help us transacting this course of BCom honors and BCom honors with research. When a student chooses to go in the 4th year and they want to they want to have a degree of BCom honors with research, the full year of research, they actually do it with the National Stock Exchange of India. Similarly, we see that there is one with ACCA, which is an Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, which is a global body and which is basically meant for giving certifications for professional accountants. So our courses which are focused on the international accounting and finance are actually done in support of the Grant Thornton as well as the ACCA. So this is how we basically transact. If that interests you, I would be very happy to share what Z courses they take, what is the content look like, what kind of case studies they use. I would be really happy to share at any point of a time with any one of you. The research focus is always there, and I'm sure it's always with all of us. So, however, we try to, try to take also help and hire interns, students, particularly in their final years. In our research, and as faculty, we would hire them as interns, and we would give them a small amount of, kind of an honorarium or a kind of money that could help them, to sustain a little, of whatever work that they're doing, just to justify that. So that kind of grants we have, and we incorporate the SGD there as well. And we definitely, focus on publishing and researching more work, which is on the Sustainable Development Goal, and also on the new age technologies. So our outreach activities also, encourage, as I said, that we have 5 adopted villages, and there is a kind of a rural immersion that we try to provide to our students so that they can see that what companies have come out, particularly in terms of, the implementing and using some kind of technologies in the rural areas, especially with, a lot of these social media trapping up, particularly, the smartphones. And the smartphones are now even available in rural India and the rural parts of the India as well. The villagers also have these smartphones. How to actually effectively use these technologies, and we want to give a practical experience to our students that how to get the people who are technologically disadvantaged, how to basically help them, use these technology in a very simple form. So that also becomes, so this is just a snapshot of how, what kind of an activities we do, kind of a training programs and sensitization using technologies or otherwise the traditional way of using boards. We
Doctor,
do number of
sorry to
visits.
cut you
Yes,
short. We have run out of
I'm
time.
hurrying. Okay. Can I wind up in next 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Thank you. So we're also trying to build up this institutional culture through these. And as I said, we are trying to digitizing our curriculum. This is just a snapshot of what I, recorded last on my integrated marketing communication lectures, and they are transited also available, as an in the form of an e-content. So I'll skip this. And I'll also skip a part on emerging technologies in the higher education. We are very well versed with the hype cycles and we know that what is coming forward. And I'll straight go to my last slide, which is how do we go about, basically integrating the artificial intelligence into the marketing curriculum. So we have specialized courses which are on the search engine optimization or in the search engine marketing. We also try to provide case studies. We also try to provide the hands-on experience and on using these marketing tools, which whether they are Google Analytics or HubSpot or a SME or a CRM software. So CRM software trainings happen here in the university itself by the faculty. They get themselves trained first and then they translate. AI applications in customer segmentation, campaign optimization, and user experience. That is all we also give a hand-on experience. We take a lot of boot camps, especially when they are, students are free from the classes and they are long holidays at the end of the year. We generally take 12 to 15 days of boot camps where our focus is basically on basics of AI and machine learning. And this is not just for the marketing students, it is also for the engineering students. And because we want to, encourage some kind of a cross-disciplinary and a collaborative learning with all of them. We want to give them projects that they can do together. Let's say a student in data science or a student in marketing combiningly, we're coming with an engineering student and working on a project. And I already mentioned what kind of an industry collaborations we have, and certainly we are focused more on the new age innovations, and and we try to translate that through our courses. So way forward, there are many things that we would like to continue with this, and at university level, and of course at industry level, we would like them to be more involved into the live projects. I also got some of my students hired up by startup companies who are focused on artificial intelligence. They are all marketing students who are into digital marketing particularly. And also on the application of AI ML, and the focus has to be on the studies which are on the integrating the traditional as well as the modern medias. And that is what we wanted to do. So that's all with this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that presentation. We will address all questions and all comments during the general discussion segment. With that being said, I am going to call upon our next speaker, or our next presenter, Prof. Tahirian, um, who is from the University of Islamic International University in Malaysia. And Prof. Yan's bio reads like this, that Prof. Yan is a distinguished scholar in the Faculty of Economics and Management Sciences, holding a PhD in Business Administration with a specialization in marketing. His academic journey began with a cum laude bachelor's degree, followed by an MBA, and culminated into his doctorate. With over 15 years experience, Prof. Yan has become an expert in marketing, consumer behavior, customer satisfaction, service quality, and customer relationship management. He is highly regarded for his training and presentation skills, having conducted workshops and training sessions across multiple countries, including Pakistan, Malaysia, South Africa, the UAE, Australia, and the United States. As an accomplished researcher, Prof. Jan has published over 60 articles in accredited international journals and presented at more than 25 international conferences. His research contributions have earned him the prestigious Best Researcher Award from the International Islamic University of Malaysia. Prof. Jan, I'm going to hand over to you.
Okay, hello, thank you. Assalamu alaikum, and a very good afternoon to all of you there. I feel really happy to see the same auditorium where I visited like 2 years ago in the VC seminar, and it feels good to be virtually there. Um, so let me share my screen without further ado, and then we are directly going to jump into the topic. So yes, briefly about the marketing programs I'll be sharing with you. Just a snapshot of how our universities. We have a big university in Malaysia here, International Islamic University. On the left side, you see that we have two campuses in Kuala Lumpur, which is the capital city, and then we have three campuses in other states of Malaysia as well. Not all these campuses are related to business and marketing. They have their own specializations. For example, we have a full-fledged hospital, we have a medical school, we have a business school, and so on and so forth. They have around 14 full-fledged faculties with multiple institutions and SBUs. So I'm in the main campus, which is the IIM main campus you see on the top left corner of the slide. Then this is how the main campus look like. There's only one campus where I work. It's a beautiful campus. This is a snapshot that I took from the website. So if you visit the website, which is iim.edu.my, you'd be able to see this one, and it is actually an interactive page where you can actually click on each individual block. So it's like a Lego kind of thing, and you click on it, and you'd be able to zoom into the individual sector in the campus. So it's a huge campus. We have you see that we have faculties, we have a river flowing in between the campus. We have full-fledged Olympic size stadium and so on and so forth. So the main motive of this presentation is to just highlight briefly about the marketing curriculum. Well, this presentation is specifically designed on the MSc marketing course that we have, the MSc marketing, but we have marketing in other programs as well. For example, starting from the undergrad, the bachelor's, we have core marketing courses, and we have three type of core courses. So we have university core courses, we have faculty core courses, and then we have department core courses, and then we have elective courses, a list of elective courses. So the marketing basic courses like the principles of marketing, consumer behavior, these are the courses. They are in the university core courses. So anyone from any faculty, even from the engineering, from IT, from the arts, if they want to come and they sit in our classes, they can actually sit in our classes, and then the credit are transferred. Then when we specifically talk about the Faculty of Economics and Management Sciences, where I'm working, we have four important departments. We have the Department of Business, where I'm working. Then we have the Department of Finance, we have the Department of Accounting, and we have the Department of Economics. And of course, all these departments are allowed to take our marketing courses as well. I'm talking about the undergrad marketing courses, which are the core marketing courses. Then in undergrad, after a couple of semesters, the students are allowed to choose a specialization, and our students can choose specializations from marketing, from economics, from finance, and from the accounting facets. Then we have postgraduates. So we have two main postgraduates in the faculty. We have the MSc marketing, as you can see on the slide, which I'm going to touch on, and then we have the doctorate, the PhD. So the PhD students can do in any of the four main faculties or any of the four main departments that I just shared with you, and they can choose the specialization within that particular department. So if a particular student want to do a PhD in business administration, which I did, I can choose marketing as a specialization within the business administration, and so on and so forth. Then we have the MSc marketing, which is the main thing. But before I touch on that, we have something which is MBA, which is a common, but MBA is actually handled by our business school. And business school is a separate block within our faculty. And it's an SBU, for instance. So the MBA program is handled by the business school, which has marketing, finance, and so on. And then it also has DBA, which is the Doctor of Business Administration, cater to the needs of the employees. So it's not a purely research degree, it's a doctorate in business administration where the students are prepared for the corporate. So we have CEOs and managers taking courses in the DBA. Let's talk about the main one, which is the MSc Marketing. So our MSc Marketing is specifically the marketing degree, where it is accredited by the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia, and that is a degree especially with all courses designed within the marketing scope. The interesting part of this marketing degree is that it is a research marketing degree. So we have half of the span of the degree dedicated to coursework, and then the remaining half of the degree is dedicated to research. And that research is conducted within the marketing area. So that's a very, very interesting thing that we have there, that students first learn marketing in the first 2 semesters, and then the remaining 2 semesters, the students do research and they are given an active supervisor, and then they go through the same process as the PhD student. Of course, it is not as robust as the PhD, but the students go through the same process where they have to defend their proposal. Examiners are there, they pass the proposal, then they go collect the data, do the research, and then they present in the final presentation. In PhD, we have Viva. Here we have the final presentation. The same procedure is used, the minor, major, fail, and so on. So we have 21 credit hours of coursework and 21 credit hours of report writing or thesis or research. These are some of the main courses that each and every student enrolling in our MSc Marketing are required to take, and these are the names. Looks quite familiar to I'm sure all of you, because these are the common names. But within these courses, we are required to review it every few semester to incorporate latest ingredients within the course. And I'll be talking about the digital marketing later in a while if I had time, because the digital marketing is the one that I'm responsible for and I handle, where we touch on the AI and so on. And these are we had many elective courses, but we dropped on a lot of elective courses. And then now we have the services and hospitality marketing and the product innovative management. Dissertation, students take on the dissertation after at least completing 4 courses or 2 semesters, and then they go into the research. As I mentioned, there are requirements for the admission. For example, you need to have a good bachelor's degree with a minimum of 3 CGPA. Without that, your firm probably would not be considered for the MSc Marketing. You need to fulfill the English language requirement as well, because the medium of instruction is English and everything is taught and written in English. So we have a TOEFL requirement of 550 and IELTS requirement of 6. If you don't have that, then you sit for an internal exam. We call it English placement test, where you have to score at least 6. Normally, full-time students can complete within a normal 2 years, and the part-time, we have part-time students as well. Part-time are all those students who are Malaysian locals or Malaysian permanent residents, and they are working somewhere. So you have to show your employment letter, and then we give you admission as a part-time student in our faculty. What is uniqueness? Well, there are 2 unique things. There are many, but the 2 unique things that I will touch on, keeping in the limitation of time that we have. The first one is the marketing school. That is my own initiative in the faculty, which is duly recognized by our university, where I have around 18 plus courses specifically for marketing students, but I have courses on research as well, where our students are freely allowed to take it, and students from around the world can enroll and take these courses. Around 18 courses. I have live consultation on that as well. so far, more than 20,000 people from around the world have enrolled in these courses, and it is growing. We also have a unique area that is totally new to the rest of the world universities, and that is Islamic ingredient in our courses, specifically in MSc marketing. So we have a course on Islamic marketing. Our own faculty members have written books on Islamic marketing, where the conventional concept of the marketing are related and shown how it relates to the Islamic teachings and Islam. So that ingredient is also very unique to our university. Our university just got the second best university in the world in Islamic education. And we are also a member of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. How do we prepare our students for the industry? From time to time, guest speakers from the industry are invited to share their experiences, and then students are also sent for programs in the industry. Students are allowed to go and work in the industry while they are studying. And then we have research projects with us where students are actively participating, and students can participate. The When it comes to AI, briefly, well, AI is work, since we have a research. This MSc marketing is a research degree. So if the students use AI for writing, then it is considered plagiarism, straightforward, and we have softwares to check that. And around the world, the universities are using the same. But when it comes to the use of AI, we do not restrict our students to use AI. In fact, we encourage them to learn and use AI in a positive way. For example, when it comes to the digital marketing course, or my timer just beeped that I already talked for 10 minutes, so I'll just quickly wind up. In the digital marketing, for instance, the students are asked to show and present in the class how do they use digital marketing to create content. One of the assignments, for example, that I give to my students is to actively run a YouTube channel. And there are students who have faceless YouTube channels where they generate content using AI. So that is a unique thing, and that is an interesting thing. And same goes with the IMC and product innovation, where we encourage students to use AI positively for constructive purposes and for learning purposes. So they are given assignments. A lot of the time, the students are in the group, and then they display or present how the AI was used for creating a particular content or for creating a particular assessment or assignment that is given to them. So our curriculum is reviewed by not only by academicians but also by the industries. We invite industry experts, and they look into our curriculum, and then they suggest to add things, delete things, and up to date things. And with that, I hope I covered the things within the time frame. Thank you so much. If you have any question, I would love to answer and discuss.
Thank you very much, Prof. Jan. You have indeed kept to the time, so thank you for that. So the floor is open for any questions or comments. I would like to start off by just addressing some of the comments that are in the chat box. There's a question here by Prof. Makita. Are student exchanges for all student and undergraduate or and postgraduate students, and how do they qualify? That is the first question. And then the second one is about collaborative learning. How is this achieved across disciplinary? And then the last one from Prof. Makita again is, what is covered in Islam marketing, and is this part of decolonization? Thank you.
Okay. So which question is for me and which question is for Prof. Minakshi? I think the Islamic one is for me, so I'll touch on that one.
Yes.
So what is covered in Islam? Well, Islamic marketing is the same concept of 4 P's of marketing, but from an Islamic perspective. So I'll give you a very quick example of that. Of course, we have books written on that, and we have a Scopus, high Scopus index journal on the Journal of Islamic Marketing. Some of you may be interested to publish there. And this area is not only unique to our university. Around the world, the Islamic marketing area is researched. So I'll give an example. For instance, let's talk about building good relationship with customers, which is the contemporary definition of marketing as well. So from the teachings of Islam, one of the things that is taught in Islamic studies is that say hi, say salam to people that you know or you don't know. So why this particular teaching is appreciated in Islam, that say hi or salam to people that you know or you don't know, if you dig deep, you see that it is because that way you create a soft corner in the heart of people, and that way you show a gesture of courtesy where they build relationship with you. The same concept is taken, and then that is matched with the concept of building relationship with customers by saying hi, wearing smile all the time. We go to the bank and we go to the airlines and we see they're welcoming us. We go to the shopping malls and we see people welcoming us. Why do they do that? Because that is how they initiate their relationship and strengthen it over the period of time. So the same concept is taken. It doesn't have to do anything with extremism or those kind of things. We only touch on the things which are contemporary, the conventional marketing, and then we relate it to the Islamic concepts. That is question number one. I hope I answered your question. Then we have collaborative learning. How is this achieved across disciplinary? So if that is, I'll first quickly touch on that, Prof. Meenakshi, if you allow me, and then
Yeah,
if you
sure,
want
sure,
to touch
sure,
on that
sure,
as well. So as I
sure.
mentioned,
Please go ahead.
the collaborative learning within the faculty and across the faculties as well. As I mentioned that in our faculty specifically, I talked on the degree of MSc marketing. There are core courses where students from all the faculties are allowed and encouraged to take course with that. For example, the principle of marketing course is a university core course. So the students from engineering, the students from IT, the students from medicine also come and take that course, and then they build a relationship to do research in the same multidisciplinary area as well. For example, if I give my students marketing plan and one of my students is from IT, another is from nursing, so I see that they come up with the marketing plan of products which are not only IT related but nursing related, and then they create strategies. I hope I answered that question. So now the mic is to you, Prof. Meenakshi.
Thank you, Professor Tahir. I think you so well said about the integration thing. And that's what exactly we also try to follow at KR Mangalam University. We have joint projects and workshops, and we also encourage students to take up interdisciplinary courses. Let's say, for example, we have one course which is on digital transformation. So that has, a faculty who's teaching partially the digital marketing, and another one who comes from an engineering background teaching the AI aspects. So those are like shared courses with the faculty from two different domains, and we take that up, transact that up through case studies and through simulations. So one of the things that we probably also get sooner into as KR Mangalam University as we are growing is on the executive education program, and that's my personal take based on my last experience with the IIM Ahmedabad, where I worked, after I settled back from South Africa to India. So they have this executive education programs which allow a lot of, integration and also a lot of collaborative learning, and it's more of a peer learning and people coming from different disciplines. Let's say a BTech student would be sitting in the same class where an MBA student sitting, and they have a work experience minimum of 5 years, and those classes and those sessions are highly interdisciplinary in nature and more collaborative and more something where you can learn from each other. So they would come together and try to resolve a real world problem in form of a case, and you get a very dynamic group where a person coming from an engineering background would have different inputs altogether rather than coming from somebody from a marketing or a strategy background. So that is also we try to achieve, as so rightly pointed out by Professor Tahir. There's another question that I also saw from Professor Makita on the exchange programs. So exchange programs, the criteria, the first and foremost is that a student has to be, of a KR Mangalam University and should at least, do 2 semesters with us. So usually we start considering the students for an exchange program or any kind of a short immersion also in a foreign university if the student has stayed us with more than a year. And lot in if it's a typical exchange where I'm also receiving both, I mean, there's both inward and outward mobility. In that case, the lot depends upon the host institutions. So ideally, let's say, for example, with Middlesex University, if I'm planning a kind of exchange program, so we will sit together with their international office and we'll see that what are the courses that we can map. Let's say, for example, a few years back, we did an exchange program with the Houston University in US. So we only went for mathematics. The school was only interested to do an exchange of the students when studying in BSc mathematics. And we did a course curriculum mapping that by the time a student comes in a third semester and a student from their students, it's also in the third semester, that what are the courses that we are transacting here and what are the courses that they are transacting, and is there anything that there is a commonality, and if a student fulfills that criteria that he has those basic fundamental knowledge, then we can definitely consider that student post a personal interview and look at his credentials, that how he has performed with us, and we can recommend that for a student exchange. I hope I answered, but certainly would love to take up this also on a detail later.
Thank you very much. I believe the questions are well answered. Are there any questions on the floor? Colleagues? Okay, I take it there are no questions on the floor. Thank you very much for our presenters, Dr. Meenakshi and Prof. Yan. Can you please give them a round of applause?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that being said, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who is Mr. Grant Yuster from Batupeli Sales and Merchandising, and he is a Human Resource Director. His bio reads like this. Grant Kenneth Yuster is an accomplished human resource professional with a robust career spanning over 3 decades. A graduate of the University of Port Elizabeth with a BA in Industrial Psychology and Organizational Behavior in 1986, Grant's expertise is further enhanced by his accreditation as a reality check ecometric practitioner. He began his career at South African breweries as a human resources officer, followed by the key roles at Cashbuild, Monoweld Galvanizers, as well as Brolo Africa, where he served as a human resources manager. From 1995 to 1997, Grant worked as a human resources consultant from Southern Africa at MultiChoice. And then in the year 2000, Grant founded Cornerstone HR and Management Consultancy, where he serves as the managing director. He later established Ashbridge Youth Line and Training in 2003 and co-founded Africa's Future Health Company, where he continues to contribute as a human resources director. Grant, we welcome you.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm quite humbled to be standing on this platform with all these distinguished guests and academics. I feel a little bit intimidated to a sense, but today I was asked, and I must thank Anton and Elisma for inviting me today to come and share a few points. I'm an employer, and I'm going to be chatting a bit about, I was asked to chat about the importance of workplace experience, which seems a very basic topic in compared to the conversations we've had at the academic level. My talk today is going to be, first I'm going to talk about the sector, the fast movable consumer goods sector. I'll look at the benefits of practical workplace experience. I need to also touch on soft skills we require in the workplace. I'm then going to talk about the human capital, which is the Gen Z type person, which people under the age of 27, which is our priority as a company. We employ only people that are youth and under the age of 27. And there's some challenges and some benefits regarding that. I don't know. I'm a baby boomer, so me interacting with Gen Zs, it's a little challenging. but certainly we will do our best to accommodate the Gen Z, which is, and some of us also a bit of baby boomers. And then I will look at my company, Batu Pile Sales and Merchandising, and how we integrate the academics into the workplace. And I think that is a fundamental shift, because training people for training purposes, everybody gets degrees. How are we going to accommodate them in the workplace? And I think that's a challenge worldwide. And I think if I could use this as an overview, some of it will be specific to South Africa. So those international speakers that are online today, maybe there's a few pointers that you guys will get and you can incorporate into your countries or institutions. South Africa's FMCG sector employs about 1.5 million people, which is about a 5.6% of all employees in South Africa. That also gives a huge opportunity for youth to come into the sector, because it's a sector that has got multitude of opportunities. And I think that in itself, and at the end of the day, the FMCG sector is a consumable environment, which means people have to eat every day. We have to have products on the shelf, and we have to integrate with marketing and sales. The benefits of workplace experience for a student, and I think every country is slightly different. South Africa has a history, as we all know, and that really, to a large degree, prejudices the young student. And the Gen Zs today don't have a strong and a deep professional network. They're operating a little bit in isolation, mainly on IT, but they don't have connections and contacts within industry where they can find a job quite easily. It can clarify where they want to position themselves. With the exposure into industry, they can find a niche environment where they will want to go down that road and really become an expert in that field. Research shows that it's a lot easier to find employment if you are currently employed. I think, and the unemployed rate in this country is excessive, and I don't want to mention it publicly because the rest of the world will say, damn, South Africa's in trouble. But it's about a 46% in the youth. So every second person under the age of 35 is unemployed in this area. But once you're employed and you're working on I know that Dr. Is going to talk about work integrated learning a bit later. That is what we will chat about later in my discussion. Employability is important. Professional development, if you get workplace experience. You also enhance your CV. As you say, if you can say that you've been employed in a company for a year or 2 years, it shows that you're employable, and then you have a chance of getting better opportunities. Obviously, it improves your skills. And I think listening to the other speakers, and it's quite tricky to bring it into the academia. How do we prepare students in that transition from the cocooned environment of the elite in terms of the educational framework? How do we get them to realize that although they're academically smart, there's nothing really special about them? Because we're finding the Gen Zs, they think they got a degree and therefore they're special. And I'll chat about some of the challenges facing the Gen Z. But when they enter the workplace, there's a few challenges. They're dealing with baby boomers, and we don't really see or even function at their level. And rightly so. They are the future anyway. Also, a few other issues which are benefits for the workplace. You build transferable skills, and I think some of the speakers that preceded me mentioned that. Skills are transferable from industry to industry because you build that a sort of DNA, that workplace DNA. You gain insight into the working world, knowledge, problem-solving skills. All of these things are part of what you learn when you're practically in the workplace. Commercial awareness. Some students never worked before, so they'll get paid. When they get paid, how do they manage their money? When they're on a stipend or a small wage, how do they really look after it? And there's an education required in that level. And obviously, we'll hope to enhance communication. With all these elements of workplace experience, they're very broad, but I think if we drill down in each of them, we can have a conversation later about that. But just for this period, which I do see, I've got half an hour to chat. I'm not quite sure why I've got so much, when some of the more steam speakers than me get 10, 15 minutes. So I'm not quite sure how to handle that one, but we'll move on swiftly. Some of the soft skills we require in the industry, and some countries all over the world, India and Australia, these may seem a little outdated and also a little bit left field. It's because of the institution in Malaysia. There's a different culture there. There's a different family situation. In South Africa, we have a unique opportunity as well as a unique disadvantage, in my opinion, is that we talk about soft skills like attitude, having the right attitude. Now, in some countries, that's just a said, where attitude is a standard. Going to work, we have communication, work ethic. The word work, I'm quite saddened that we have to use these soft skills. We have to teach people when they're becoming young adults. Now, I'll give you an example. Last year, we embarked on the program to employ disabled learners. And we went out to industry and we employed 700 disabled learners. Because we've got, in my discussion on one of the companies, I can share with you our capacity. Of those 700 learners, at any one stage in the month, considering we did induction, we kitted them out, we gave them everything they needed to be ready to enter the workplace. Of those 700 learners, and this may surprise the world as well as you guys, on average 30 went to work every day. 30 out of 700. And it'll be alarming. And not because we used an ERS clocking system, we could see if they were going to work. They just did not show up. And that I regard as attitude, self-belief, believing that good things can happen to them, believing that they have it goes very deep. And I can't really spend too much time on that. So we also have a soft skill regarding teamwork. We look at leadership. Now, if you look at the word, what is leadership? Now, there's many things, there's books written about it. But for me, leadership is one word. That could be that, absolutely. I didn't think about that one. It is to inspire. Leadership is to inspire. And we need to instill this within our employees as well as our managers. But if you can inspire others, you can change the world. Time management, which I think in some countries is just a said. In South Africa, it's a major problem. Adaptability, collaboration, but some of these soft skills sit within the Gen Zs, especially adaptability and those things. Those things are quite quick, and I'll chat about them earlier. Active listening, I can go on empathy, conflict resolution, critical thinking. Now, when we look at critical thinking, do we understand the concept? Because I can give you an example, and this may also shock you. When we do some of these inductions, I just want to break the ice, and I would ask my inductees the simple question: what is heavier, a ton of bricks or a ton of feathers? And yeah, you may giggle, and I appreciate that. 99.9 say the bricks are heavier than the feathers. That refers to active listening. It refers to thinking of how do you problem solve. There's not a problem there, but they have not grasped that concept. And if I say ton, there may be a misunderstanding of what ton is, and I say a kilogram weight. If I had to ask them this question, what is heavier, bricks or feathers? The academic will say, well, I haven't got enough information to answer that question. 100% of my audience would say bricks. And that goes down to critical thinking and really zoning in, deep thinking about issues. And we find that a challenge within our context. Problem solving, decision making, flexibility, which is a Gen Z. These are the soft skills. And I don't know if there's an institution that trains those soft skills. Because in some countries they're not needed. But I think in South Africa, some of those need to be brought into academia, maybe in the final years or final month before they transition into a possible employment, that those things are highlighted. I think that may be an advantage. Coming to the Gen Zs. I did do a bit of research on this and I found it quite fascinating. And I've tried to align our organization to what Gen Zs are, because we employ over 500 employees and 90%, 99% of them are all under 27. So we know what we're working with and we need to mold our environment to suit the Gen Z. And that may sound strange, but I truly believe that you can't change people. They can fake it for a while, but they'll default back to where they're most comfortable. So we have to look at our environment to encourage Gen Zs to stay, which we found that within the disabled alarming. They have a lack of professional experience. They don't really have an understanding of the workplace dynamics, and they haven't had exposure to the general chat of business. In most households in South Africa, around the dinner table or coffee table, they do not talk business. And in that way, their acuteness to business and business acumen is missing. How do you address this? You offer them internships, give them opportunity to get workplace experience. And that is why I'm here and I'm offering Batupile to assist with that integration from academia to the workplace. And I will chat about that a bit later. They have limited professional networks. This can hinder them with opportunities for mentorships and mentorship programs. We want to encourage them to look around and offer their skills to industry in general. So that's where the challenges face. Also, dependency on technology. No Gen Z born between 2009 and 2009 and 1995 or something, I'm not quite sure, 27 years old. They were all born with technology. They don't know anything else. And I see my grandson of 2 years old, you give him I don't know if this is a DNA realignment, but you give a 2-year-old a cell phone, they're on it, they're touching buttons, it's crazy. I think when I was born in 1961, if I saw one of those, I'd run away because that thing is alien. It's not alien to the Gen Zs. And in that, there's an advantage and a disadvantage. Because even when I was talking to them yesterday in an induction program, their 2 hands are below the desk and they are interacting on different platforms. And, you know, coming from my generation, it's, excuse me? Yeah, I don't understand that. Could you please stay? They are connected with me and with anything around the world at the same time. And that's a little tricky for me, but we need to find opportunities for them to express that part of who they are in the workplace. Importance of career advancement. Many have high expectations of career advancement very quickly. Impatience, because they got access to technology, which is equal to us, in fact, more advanced than us, talking about myself. They feel they want instant gratification. And how do we get around that? And we need to instill a sense of mindset of personal growth and some patience. Then also have life-work balance challenges. They can get fanatical into sort of their work, sit behind the computer for days and days, don't eat, don't breathe, don't sleep. And we have to help them just balance their lives and emphasize that human well-being is quite important. They have limited patience with repetitive tasks. So repetition is not good for them. So we've got an environment that they will work. They'll have a change day every single time. But most Gen Zs battle with repetition. Distraction from technology. I think that's a challenge. They will always want to revert back to their cell phones or their tablets at any one time. We find it in the workplace. They're sitting on the computers all day, but there's this world, and then there's a parallel world. I think the parallel world is this little cell phone. They're interacting across it, and they are so dependent like we are. If we leave the house without this, we'll do a U-turn to fetch it. It's crazy. We've become, as Elon Musk may say, we're like cyborgs. We are just one generation away from an implant where we have this in us so we have all the knowledge. And I think that's become a challenge with the Gen Zs and us old folk, that this becomes their world. It's a parallel world, and often it is a distraction to their current work. And we have to find a way of promoting the mindset that it's only a tool and it's not your life, but it's quite tricky. The need for instant gratification. I've mentioned it briefly before. We need to assist them when working with Gen Zs, feedback, results, how they're doing. The score is very important when you're working with them, because they want instant gratification, and they also would like edification of what they're doing. And in that way, if you don't have it and you leave them out there in the wilderness, they're going to feel neglected, not cared for, because they're all instant kids. Instant money, instant gratification, information on a fingertips, and the world out there is not necessarily geared. When they get older and they start managing industries, they will change that world. But for now, getting them integrated into this world of ours is a tricky balance between academics, especially if they got the PhDs or they got a master's degree. They're coming into industry, being employed by people who manages them that haven't got that qualification. And there's always that measurement, or what do you know? And they don't necessarily recognize the dust on the shoes, experience in the field, and it's almost looking at industry in a very shallow way to say, I got this. But they can't see the depths and understanding the importance of some of the experience issues around business and business acumen. What are now those seems to be all the negatives of Gen Z. So what are the advantages of employing a Gen Z? They've never known the world without the internet. I mentioned that. They are diverse, the most racially and ethnically diverse population group in the history of the world. The integration between race groups and stuff is amongst Gen Zs is amazing. They are independent. A lot of them want to work on their own. A lot of them seem to have all the answers. And in that, they can add huge value to your organization because they think out of the box and they're able to see things differently. I mean, my eyes can only see certain ways, and I can see they have a different perspective on the angles of what business is. They're very confident and assured, sometimes hinging on arrogance. A delusion may come into that too. They believe in themselves and ability to achieve anything they set their minds to do. And sometimes it's detrimental to them, because if they can't say no, they're normally very smart. Their employer will then bestow more and more work on them, and they'll burn out very quickly. And we find we have to protect the Gen Z because sure I can, sure I can, sure I can. And that becomes a challenge. And we have to be mindful of the fact that, they do tend to take on too much work for themselves. They're used to change. They can adapt quickly to situations, and they are accepting of others and differences, and they will often challenge the status quo, which could or could not be, depending how they approach it within industry. Most industries, if they've been running for many, many years, have systems, processes, and it doesn't really resonate with the Gen Z, and they want to try and shift and change it. That can be a frustration for them if they can't get it right, depending on their position, and so on. So those are really the two areas about the Gen Z. We have to mold our workplace to try and accommodate this type of person. And I'm sure that companies around the world are also looking into this, because we have to mold the environment rather than the person. That's a lot easier, I think, to a large degree. The last part of my chat is about my company. Batupile Sales and Merchandising was established in 2014, and we started really functioning in 2019. That was a perfect time to start a business, because the MBA says choose the moment, choose the time. We chose them both. I tell you, if I had to tell you what happened in 2020, it will probably be I don't need to tell you that. But we found it very challenging, and we started this company for one fundamental reason: to enhance and grow youth within South Africa. So we are committed. Our company's name, as you heard, Batupili, for those that are international and non-Sotho speaking, it means people first. It's a very difficult thing to live by every day. Our logo is two hands holding a person. If you go onto internet, you'll see Batupile, BATHOPELE, FMCG. You'll see our logo. It's a logo of upliftment and helping people grow within our organization. Our head office is in Johannesburg, and we function within Gauteng, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and Northwest Province. We are in the top-end retail sector, so we have staff in every Pick n Pay, Shoprite, Checkers, Food Lovers, Spar, in those territories, Northwest, Limpopo, Gauteng, and Mpumalanga. Free State, we're not there, but we have associate companies all over South Africa that are starting to get this thing with work integrated learning, where we can start bringing students into the workplace that add value to the workplace. With that being said, we cover about 2,200 stores. So we have the capacity to take on marketing management students from TUT in any campus in those provinces, and we have associated businesses we can lead you to if you from the Free State, Western Cape, Eastern Cape, where I come from, so that's can help transition students into the workplace. When they come into Batupile, they will be field marketers. That's the title of the job. And I think when I say marketers, it resonates with all of you because you're all in that space. And we do marketing within context of the top retail stores. And having listened to some speakers this morning, the academic side seems very high, 3,000 meters or 30,000 meters above the ground. We land the plane, and we in the trenches. So those students who have come from an academic perspective of 3,000, 4,000 meters above the ground, they're going to land when they walk into the back of a store, and they've got to hand in all their things to get through security and sign the register. So we land the students quite quickly with a lot of support and guidance, and then they can find out that the real world is the real world. We don't treat them any different to anybody else of our employees. They will learn quickly. There's accountability. If they don't show up for work, they don't get paid. There's no pampering. It's just the real world. And we treat obviously everybody with respect, but the bottom line, they land. At the end of the day, we have unlimited opportunity to host learners, work integrated learning. And we've been doing this for 20 years. My work experience, as you can see, goes back a long way, 38 years in human capital. And we prize ourselves with understanding how these projects and models work with bringing people into the workplace. The advantage of the student working within our framework is that they will be rubbing shoulders with people in the FMCG sector. A lot of our students have been absorbed into the Pick n Pays, the Checkers, the top retail stores, and in that way they can have their careers, enhancing their careers. We also absorb as many students as we can on a full-time basis, but we have found that a lot of students, not so students, but the people we've worked with, the Gen Zs, are not really open to commitment to employment. It seems quite strange with the unemployment rate so high in South Africa. So we offer them, they don't accept it. They maybe want to go on the entrepreneurial route or something like that, and we can also help them with that if need be. But there are career opportunities within the FMCG sector that range from marketing to admin to finance to HR. There's many opportunities within that sector. One of our advantages is that we will place students as close as possible to where they live. Now, that may sound a little simple, But if you're in Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and some campuses, we're not going to transfer them to Johannesburg to work within a Pick and Pay in Houghton or Sandton. We will place them as close as possible where they'll be on a stipend, more than likely, or whatever, some form of financial support. We want them to walk to work at best, one taxi at worst. And in that way, it accommodates them and makes things a lot easier. We also have a project specialist within the HR department that will look after your program or any other program that we're working with. And we have a cover sheet which looks at their time off and just simple basics so that it makes it simple to run the program. As I said, we've run this for 20 odd years. So we've sort of, we know what potholes we have to jump over and we know how to run these projects smoothly. Top students that are working with us will be absorbed because we'll have about a year or whatever, 6 months, 18 months, whatever, experience with them working with us. They will have looked at us and seen if they want to fit into our environment, and we will look at them to see if they're valuable and how they actually work in the environment. So when we have that relationship of collaboration between students, university, and us, I think that little tripartite agreement could be very, very nice. And we will encourage institutions within South Africa to engage with us because we can't host them or employ them within our structures. We have companies around South Africa we can pass you on to, and hopefully that will integrate some of your students into the workplace and the world of work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Are there any questions on the floor? Okay, I see one there from Dr. Lebo, and then one from Dr. Gama.
Thank you, Grant, for your presentation. You know, at UNISA, we strive for inclusion and diversity. And listening to your presentation where you shared with us that as Batopili, you did appoint 700 differently abled people. Come again?
Right.
Okay, ngiyabonga.
Enkosi.
Yes, so I commend Batupili for doing that. I found myself asking, what could have been the reason why you only had 30 that showed up? Did you make a follow-up with those individuals to find out the reasons why they could not make it? And the reason for asking that is to see how best we can support them as academics to better prepare them for the workplace out there.
Thank you for that question. I will answer it in English and I won't answer it in Xhosa because the majority of the audience won't understand a word I'm saying. That project was a challenge. We didn't do the recruitment of those differently abled bodies. And in fact, we went so far as to say we would like you to work 3 days a week, not even work a full week. And it was very challenging to get information specifically on what the reasons are. You can imagine there's so many, we couldn't phone all of them. But one of the projects we had, which was about 400 of them, they had already been engaged by the training provider because big corporates are funding these programs for their BE scorecards. And they're funding disabled so they can get the maximum out of the tax incentive. And they'd been paid to sit at home for 4 or 5 months when they started their program. And then they realized, based on a learnership, they require workplace experience. They sort of came to us late in the program. And then we said, they come to induction and we say, now you've got to work. And that was a little alien to them because they'd been sitting at home for 5 or 6 months with getting paid for really not working. And with that expectation and the change that they had to come to work suddenly was a little tough for a lot of them. So to be specific, the reason by individual, I haven't got that answer. But how we started the program where we came in late may have been a contributing factor to that huge challenge. And we also, being a sales and merchandising, we were careful we didn't take on people with more disability, I can say, that can't fit the role. So we were careful. We didn't take on people that wouldn't fit into that work environment. But it was so bad and damaging for our business that we need to re-gear those programs to see if it's even feasible for us to do it. You can imagine the impact on our company, where the person's meant to be there and they weren't at work, and it just became a mess. So I'm still pro that process and have our doors still open. But I think when we do engage, even with able bodies, we need to learn our lessons and we need to engage in a different process to make sure we can be successful.
Okay, thank you.
Good day. Thank you, Grant, for
Pleasure.
a wonderful presentation. You're sitting here with a room full of educators of sales and marketing. What do you wish we can just teach our students before they come to you?
A wish list. I tell you, I would have teaching people things. I don't mind what you teach them. Having people, having youth, which is a deeper challenge facing South Africa, having youth with the right attitude, having youth with the attitude of caring. There's two things that, and I've learned over these years of being gifted to be still on this planet. There's the one thing called the love of labor. I think we've lost the love of labor. We understand the labor of love, which is to your family and you be up all night with your sick child. But the love of labor seems to be missing in our DNA. And I think China, Malaysia, India, all the other countries in the world where labor is a privilege, it's like nature. All of nature labors before refreshment, labors before fun. And in South Africa, we have a culture of dependency, SASSA. We're giving away grants for this and grants for that. We're creating a country where it's almost like they're doing you a favor if they're coming to work. So that whole thing about the love of labor, we need to instill in our youth. So I don't mind if somebody hasn't got the skills or the academic background, because we can teach them anything if they're willing. But give me somebody that has the love of labor, even at a very humble level. We can grow them and we can develop them. And I know it's not answering the question, but I really don't know how to say it, because your institution may be number one in the world in marketing management. You have the greatest curriculum, the greatest teachers. When they come out of this cocooned environment and hit the workplace, they got to shift gear. And if they don't shift gear, whatever you taught them is purely academic, and they don't integrate well into the workplace. They've got to be servants. Like I, as a director and shareholder in the company, all my team, I have to serve. And if you can't get that, and you think you're special and you must be treated differently, it becomes a challenge for all industry and business. So teach them the love of labor. Change your curriculum.
Thank you, Dr. Vandenberg.
I just want to explain to you guys how we're going to go about moving forward with this company. Waterpeli is we have an employability officer in our faculty that is assigned to us. So he got us in contact with Mr. Jooste. And at the end of the day, in our third year marketing, we have a WIL component, a work integrated learning component. In the past, it was simulation where we brought industry to the classroom. However, from next year, in our whole faculty, we are motivated to, that all students have to be placed in industry. So giving the numbers, it's quite a hectic process to run. So through this company, it will definitely, be much, it must be an easier process. Okay, Dr. Rulien will anyway talk about the processes and the systems that we have at UT. that makes the process of capturing the data and the information of each student easier, and they will assist us with this. So we work aligned. We have to sit, we're busy with the MOU that we'll sign with them so that it's a formal agreement. But at the end of the day, we also made our third year modules will only be offered in the first semester from next year. And again, it was Senate approval going through all of that just to get that done. So the students will then complete their actual modules in the first semester in block mode. Then second semester, they will go into work integrated learning so that they don't have to come back to class and that type of things. So that's what because if they start working, maybe they don't want to come back. So that type of thing that we know they're done with their classes, even though we didn't get to buy in from the day one from the quantitative techniques department. However, we will, and then later they were like, okay, we want to change. It's too late. So they will still have Saturday classes for that module for next year, but in 2026 they will run it all modules on in the first semester. So this is really a way to bringing that reality to the students, and when they go out in the third year, at least they will then have the actual work experience and not just simulation.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions?
Thank you. We place students for work integrated learning, and initially with COVID, we had one year where we had to give them a simulation. And I can tell you for one fact, if the students have gone out for work integrated learning, you get a student that changes 180 degrees. It's a different student. They learn, they get treated differently, and they grow up in those few months in which they are in industry. It's extremely valuable for students to go out to industry physically, and you shouldn't compromise on that at all. That's all I wanted to say.
I see there's a comment online. Let me allow Nomawetu. You may speak. Nomawetu. I've enabled her mic. Can you please unmute yourself, Noma? Or maybe you can type the question in the chat box. Okay, thank you. You're not running. Can you please then type your question in the chat box? Okay, we will address the question later. I'm going to call upon our next speaker. And our next speaker is Mr. Enrico Du Plessis from the Marketing Association of South Africa. And Enrico's bio goes as follows. So he is the chairperson of the Marketing Association of South Africa, and he handles the Professional Designation Board and is also a non-executive director on the MASA board. So Enrico holds a BCom Honours degree from the University of Johannesburg and is a certified chartered marketer. He currently serves as a non-executive director on the MASA board and has been an instrumental role player in the creation of the current marketing industry professional body, which is MASA, in 2006. As a project leader for the professional designations in the industry, he also currently chairs the MASA Professional Designation Board. Enrico, we welcome you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that introduction. Thank you to TUT and specifically Dr. Vandenberg for inviting me to be part of this program. I really see it as an honor to be part of the program and join your international guests from around the world in this environment. I'm going to be brief, and my talk is really not going to be very technical, but overall just to deal with why professional bodies and recognized professional bodies, independent professional bodies that manages accredited professional designations, why that is so important as part and parcel of the ecosystem of the marketing discipline. And I'll just be using MASA as a professional body who we've established and positioned, we believe, as a gold standard to illustrate this point. And then we'll talk about some more maybe operational matters as we move along. So let me start by looking at the principles that are important for a credible global professional designation and or managed within a professional body. And there are really 4 principles that we look at here. And I trust that you will stop me if my slides don't change on your side, but I assume they do. So why have we established this as an order qualifier in an environment, of course, that is not an exact science, but a semi-exact science and discipline? And also, there's not an act of parliament, I believe, in any environment in the world that makes it illegal to work in the marketing discipline or the marketing environment unless you are professionally designated. However, we believe that it should be an order qualifier, and that's what we're driving through what I said, what we believe is a gold standard of structure, process, and content for people to be designated and acknowledged for their applied skill and competence in the industry. So it sets a universal minimum standard for those practicing the discipline. It obviously provides global mobility and reciprocity, and we'll talk a little bit about why that is the case and why we can say that. And then we must include continued international aligned professional development. That is part and parcel of being a professionally designated individual. And once you're designated, you're almost obliged to keep on developing through continuous professional development. And we obviously link that into international networks. And then, of course, a universal code of professional conduct that you have to sign and adhere to as a professional individual. And there are sanctions when people don't adhere to that. So when we look at the professional designations as an order qualifier, and we look at the ecosystem, I'm going to stop here for a moment. There obviously, all around the world, there are the South African Qualifications Authorities, now our direct quality assurance body as a recognized professional body, but there are others around the world that obviously one has to talk to and link into, but we link into them as a professional body via SAQA's reciprocity and international reciprocity agreements. Same as on the qualification basis, we do that on a professional designation basis. There are 2 registers with SAQA, and we are, just as the educational institutions, also obliged to submit all professional designated individuals' names and data to the National Learning Register database, be it on a separate register for professional designations. We obviously talk to CHE, DHET, that's the Council for Higher Education, Department of Higher Education, the QCTO Quality Council for Trade and Occupations, and the different sector training authorities, and of course similar relevant international institutions that might be of interest to us. Now, if you look at the ecosystem in its totality, it cannot function without these 3 broad role players involved. And MASA, as the professional body, is really the catalyst by managing the professional designations at different levels. Then there's the very important education and training institution component. That's where we seamlessly transfer students from the world of academics, the world of studying, to the world of work. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. And of course, the industry itself. And when we talk about the industry, we don't just talk about the employers of marketers or people within the marketing discipline, but we also talk about the talent management, human resource management, recruiters, etc. We want to rub shoulders with all of them to ensure that all 3 these wheels run in sync, and that we produce eventually that seamless transfer to the world of work as a dual outcome to qualifications towards our 3 designations, which you see on the right of your screen. So what has happened since 2 or 3 years ago, and we currently have 15 credible education and training institutions as patron universities of MASA, and all their final year students can as a dual outcome, sign up to become designated associate marketers SA. There are minimum requirements, but normally these universities curricula fulfill that, and also the accreditations of the universities and the actual qualifications are accredited qualifications, so that all fulfills the criteria. Then they get designated as associate marketers, and immediately they get incorporated into the network of professional marketers, and specifically professional designated marketers, people that are focused on making the marketing discipline and working in the marketing discipline their careers. And then, of course, as they gain applied skill and competence, we have a very focused process structured in terms of how to progress with this pathway up and until you get recognized as a chartered marketer at the end of the day. It obviously takes time to work through that, but that is all about applied skill, competence, and experience. So that is why we've established this as an order qualifier objective, and a very important one as that, because it also allows us as academic institutions and the industry, and of course driven by a framework from the Professional Designation Board, to ensure that we take care of all those typical elements, challenges that we've just heard from Mr. Jooste, they experience when they get new employees into the marketplace. But it's not just that, it's much more. The universities that work with us will attest to that. So what is the real intent, of why do we have to have this professional designation, professional body embedded in our discipline? It's ultimately about the implementation of certified designations, first and foremost about professionalism, and not about just the individual or just the employer or just the client or just another stakeholder. It is about the discipline in its larger context, and therefore that is the way we approach it with the different stakeholders that we engage with to make it successful at the end of the day. But if we have to scale down to a very detailed level of what is in it for the individual, as I always say, I think the summary of this is, it's your personal ISO stamp of approval. So as a manufacturer, I have an ISO 9000, 14,000, 18,000, whatever is required. This is the professional marketer's personal stamp of approval to, at an instant, reflect his or her applied skills at either an operational, a tactical, or a strategic level. And we can break it down into all of those subsets, realize the competitive advantage through showing that you have been recognized, independently verified by a professional body against the minimum standard of the industry. Demonstrate commitment through your professional designation, acceptance and participating in the process of getting designated to the discipline. It increases earning potential. Now there we have very specific examples of consultants that came to us and said, absolutely, I got a higher price against my competition and I got the work because my client now understands who they're dealing with, and that the skills and the competencies that I sell have actually been verified by an independent professional body operating under a well-established quality assurance ecosystem, of which SAQA is obviously our quality assurance body as professional body. So that certainly has brought about great value to the individuals. It obviously boosts efficiency through guided CPD participation. And as I mentioned in the beginning, it is an absolute necessity in today's world that people keep up with continuous professional development. So once they have their degrees, they have the foundation, they get into the world of work and things start changing on a daily basis. Now, how to deal with that change, how to understand the new technology, the development of that new technology, etc., is an important aspect of not just staying, but growing as a professional in the discipline. And we guide that very cautiously through the CPD programs that we provide frameworks for. Obviously, grow knowledge and skill by rubbing shoulders with your peers all the time. And of course, also through the CPD program, which I've just mentioned, which is compulsory to submit CPD record cards every second year to the professional body. And if you don't, you get suspended as a professional because the designation belongs to the professional body and not to the individual. And there's a great difference between that in terms of qualification versus professional designation. So it establishes that professional credibility against other disciplines in business. And I think marketers owe that to themselves, to position themselves within the boardrooms of businesses. And we have a very focused differentiation in our continuous professional development record cards and requirements of our designated individuals to not just engage with marketing specific content, but also to mentor when they are professionals to other marketers or to younger marketers, and also to engage with non-marketing content. And that carries about a 30% of their CPD record card requirements on a biannual basis. So we ensure that we almost guide all professional marketers to expand their knowledge on business-related matters and not just focus on marketing as a specialization, because as they move up the ladder and become managers and become business managers, they certainly need to understand more than just marketing. So the whole process demonstrates the applied skill and competency through the sustained CPD and current certification status, and then the commitment to the professional code of conduct, which I have briefly mentioned. Now, if we switch to the employer, we say it certainly demonstrates commitment to position marketers as a recognized profession against other disciplines in the organization and the broader industry alike. So if you latch onto the requirement and the order qualifier that you only want designated professional marketers to work in your organization, then certainly that drives the positioning of marketing as a discipline in the business. Distinguish between qualified individuals versus those who already have the demonstrated applied skill and competency. And just as a side note here, although I'm not going to go into processes and technical matters here, if somebody does not have a marketing qualification, but they have experience, they can land up in the end with a similar professional designation, recognizing their applied skill and competency and therefore making them competitive to also get a job in the market. So it identify non-officially qualified individuals with required competency and skill relevant to the employer requirements. It benchmarks current employees against the minimum industry standard, as we've mentioned, provide employee the opportunity to benchmark their own applied skill and competency against the minimum industry standard. It provides professional certified designated individuals with their code of conduct and thereby enhancing ethics, because anything that the professional body picks up or gets reported to the professional body regarding the professional's conduct outside of that framework gets dealt with through a proper disciplinary process, and there are obviously suspension and other processes that follow such misconduct. So it speaks to ethics very loudly. It realized competitive advantage through demonstrated commitment to sustainable excellence of the discipline, and then boost efficiencies through guided CPD. So where companies have their own programs, those get pre-approved by us for CPD purposes if need be. So there's no duplication as such. It is just that we need to set the standard for what can go on a continuous professional development record card and what can not go onto that. And when we move on to the role and benefit of education and training institutions as patron members of MASA, it is very clear that, as I've mentioned, we've got 15 universities on board already participating in the patron membership ecosystem. And they play a critical role, you play a critical role of ensuring relevantly qualified young people to transition from high school into tertiary learning and then to transfer them beyond. So we are the catalyst to take them from the university into the industry. You play a very vital role to transfer them from the school environment into the tertiary environment, and then again to, with us, transfer them into the industry work environment. So the MASA Education and Training Patron Membership engagement of accredited institutions ensures those items, relevant alignment of qualifications where required. We will engage with the universities on discussing and providing guidance on what we believe should be in the curriculum. We do workshops with those universities that require that or that requests that. There's a dual outcome, as I said, of professional certification for undergraduate students. Once they qualify, we provide access to industry conferences and expose even the undergraduate final year students to that world, even prior to them being designated in their final year, as part and parcel of our relationship with these different universities. And then we give them early exposure to best practice in business through the collaboration. So, of course, we also, as part and parcel of what we do, have platforms and create regular opportunities for these institutions to debate and improve the alignment and collaboration to achieve the intended objectives of aligning theory and practice. Now, we've launched this whole The Future of Marketing concept, aligning theory and practice towards sustainable professionalism, last year at LeaderX, and we are going to continue with that through a larger presence this year of several of our patron universities participating as well. So in summary, again, I come back to say, why is it so important to have a credible, recognized, and independent professional body that ticks all the boxes of a legitimate professional body with legitimate accredited designations and professional designations, and also the verification of continuous professional development, because it gives you that seamless and consistent recognition of applied skill, competency, and experience. It provides free flow of talent on the one hand, coupled with retention of the very best on the other. And this is on an international basis because, as I said, it is recognized and accepted internationally, our professional designations in this discipline through MASA as the professional body. And it provides clarity of requirements and acts as that, as we said, the attraction of talent into the marketing profession, knowing and understanding very early in their academic career, but also very early in their working career, on what it entails to be a marketer and what is expected of you to be a marketer and to move up the ranks. And we play a very vital role in providing that platform. As we say, this can easily be implemented, so we integrate it into employer value propositions so that we can have the objective, and many companies do have that already, an objective of every marketer that works in their space will be designated and are designated. And it provides for that continuous learning, which we emphasize so many times over. So just a quick look at the MASA designations that we follow. And these are at an operational level at the bottom: associate marketer, then marketing practitioner, and chartered marketer. And you can only be designated at these levels according to your applied skill and competence and experience, that your academic qualification can only take you into the AMSA level, and beyond that it is applied skill and competence and experiential reference that counts. So just to summarize again, back at our initial picture, you can now see how all this fits into the order qualifier and the importance of having an order qualifier in the marketing discipline. And we've certainly, as MASA, believe that we have established the gold standard of implementing professional designations in a proper and credible way, and can stand up to any international standard as far as that is concerned. And I always say that it doesn't matter whether people sit in Europe or whether they sit in the East or in America or on the continent, they can go and be designated and carry the designation status from MASA, either AMSA, MPSA, or CMSA, because it has international acceptance through the SACWA reciprocity network. And the standard against which they get measured for applied skill and competence speaks clearly to that international standard, or the minimum standard on an international basis for marketers. And the fact that it is in South Africa and that we're based in South Africa doesn't necessarily mean that we only accept South African marketers. It is relevant for anybody around the world. Now, I always compare that to when we look at Yale University or Stanford University or Harvard University. They are not South African, they are American or UK or European-based universities, but their qualifications are accepted on a global basis. Now, we've positioned ourselves as the gold standard of international professionals' status acknowledgement of applied skill and competency in the marketing discipline, and our market is certainly an international marketing professionals. Through a proper structure, process, and content, which I don't have time to deal with you or to share with you today, but we can certainly offline engage, and I can explain all of that to you in more detail. So the opportunity really, in the end, is for anybody, doesn't matter where they sit on the continent in terms of an education and training institution, to become a patron member of MASA as the institution, and then immediately link the institution and the students into the network of designated marketing professionals. And please speak to your colleagues that might be in the room or online that are patron university members already about what happens in that space. There is some references if you want to get in contact with us. I guess my email address, which is easy, my first name at marketingsa.co.za, is a quick one to remember. Or otherwise, please go to the MASA website for some further information on designations and get in contact, and I can always explain the detail further. And with that, I thank you, and I'll appreciate some questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you very much for that insightful presentation, Enrico. And it's always very helpful to work with you because I've been through the designation process myself a couple of years ago as well. It's not that tedious.
Indeed.
Okay, so Prof. Ru's just asking me to explain the process that I followed. I had to, I went to the induction orientation workshop where they gave you, you know, the requirements practically of what they need. So for the associate marketer, you just had to obviously present the qualifications that you have in marketing, and then they designated you after verifying the qualifications. But then for the marketing practitioner, you have to submit a portfolio of evidence on certain modules, and that can be the theoretical, but also a practical demonstration of what you've done, which is related to the different modules that they have. And then it goes through an evaluation process with the board, and then they get to then decide on whether you qualify, you don't qualify. Yeah, and that's that. But then the chartered marketer one, from what I read, is more comprehensive and more demanding. But the first two are not as tedious as many people think they are. Thank you.
I may just quickly add to that. Yes, you're absolutely correct. The AMSA is the only one you can do on qualification only. But if you don't have the qualification, you can still go through the process and you can become an AMSA with limited applied skill and competence and experience, be recognized as that. And then, of course, the extended PQE process is orientation workshop PQE, and the outcome is dual. You either assess on a tactical level, which will then end you up as a marketing practitioner designated, or at a strategic level, which allows you to go through to the preparatory workshop for the board exam, and you do write the board exam before you can become or be given the status of a CMSA. But everybody, regardless of AMSA, MPSA, or CMSA, has to submit a CPD record card every second year, pay their professional body fees, and also sign the code of conduct.
Thank you very much, Enrico. I guess there are no further questions on the floor. Thank you very much for your presentation. Can we please give him a round of applause?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Grant, there's just one question that was directed to you by Norma Wetu. She's asking, okay, it reads as follows. I think, though, we need to challenge ourselves and revisit the work integrated learning concept. If it does not take students to where they want to be in the future, it might not be as interesting, or it might not be that interesting for them. Maybe we need to have different streams to accommodate different parts. I'm a core marketer, for example. Even though merchandising experience may help enter the sales field, it won't add much for someone wanting to specialize in core marketing. Maybe there is an opportunity to partner with the marketing agencies and get the student opportunities to work on real integrated marketing plans. That experience is more valuable in the long run if they wish to join the marketing department. You can reflect on that.
Okay, thanks for that question. We don't have merchandisers in our company. They're called field marketers. So I think I didn't have a chance to explain specifically what the role is in the organization, but it's certainly not limited to merchandising. In fact, that's one of the elementary functions, which is putting a product on the shelf. Our team worked directly with our BR team in head office. So they're communicating constantly via WhatsApp or any other form of technology. They do promotions, they do planning, they do ordering, they do pricing, they do stock management. They interact with customers. It's quite a sort of an integrated approach to how we work. We work a little differently to other agencies. So please don't see it purely as packing shelves. I think that's very limiting. And it certainly, with just packing shelves, I agree, it wouldn't create any happiness or even any satisfaction in the workplace. But our role is way bigger than that. And yeah, if you need me to send you information, we'll just communicate directly if need be. But we certainly don't just pack shelves as merchandising. Hope that answers the question.